Okay, this is going to be my first installment, I guess, of many, hopefully, of telling my story, uh, pretty much my life. At this point, I'm 65. I'll be 66 this year, in a couple months. Uh, I kind of just want to do this to maybe leave something behind for in the future, my kids and my grandkids and their kids will, have something that my generation didn't have. You can actually hear stories from your grandparents and just the visual videos, because today's age now, back in the day, you had to take video cameras are almost non-existent. If they were big as a truck. And even cameras back then, you had to take regular photography and have it processed. And where now these phones are like studios, you can do anything with them. uh, yeah, I just kind of want to do a little documentary thing that maybe I can upload to YouTube, and it'll be somewhere that um, they'll be able to access. This whole world's around in another 50 years. They'll be able to look back on it and see some things, and hear some stories of back. I was born in 1960, so some of the life of growing up back then. My family was not a rich family by many means. We were pretty much just probably on the poor side. We lived poor. Uh, I wouldn't trade it. You learn character when you go through stuff in your life. You learn a lot of character about who you are. It makes you who you are. It makes you appreciate things later in life. You definitely don't have a sense of entitlement. Uh, so I'm just gonna upload these short, uh, unedited little talks when I just get a feeling to talk about something, or to share my past. Stuff I grew up, the way I grew up. The '60s was a very difficult time in the country. Uh, but for a kid, the '60s were great. Being an adult in the '60s probably would have been rough. You know, we didn't have any of the modern conveniences, and we even had less. We lived. I grew up in the first 10 years of my life, 9 years. I grew up in a four-room shotgun house with a tin roof on it, no indoor plumbing. Uh, we had an outhouse. That was fancy. We had a fancy outhouse, and the water we got was from a well that was from a hand pump. It was outside. We didn't have an electric pump to pump the water out of the well. Usually, my dad or my brothers mostly would go out and have to fill a big bucket up. And we had the kitchen, and there was this little metal dipper that went down in it, and that's where we drank our water from. That little dipper. Everybody kind of was a community dipper thing. And we took baths in an old metal bathtub, old little tiny tub that we'd fill up with water, and Mom would heat up water on the stove. And we had a eventually we had little propane tanks. It was like a gas stove, but I think early on, I can't remember too well, but I think it was either a coal burning or wood burning. But I know that that's how we heated the house. We had a wood stove. I think the wood stove was in the living room, and the coal stove was in the kitchen. But there was only four rooms. You basically had a living room, a kitchen, a back bedroom, and my parents' bedroom. And it was the house was not insulated very well at all. It was a very drafty house. Uh, and it had a little slant to the kitchen floor. It was kind of funny. I love that little house though. That's all I ever knew. That's the first 10 years of my life. I didn't know other than going to a relative's house or a friend maybe, which there wasn't a lot in our neighborhood. We lived kind of in a rural setting. Uh, I'll get into neighbors and things like that more as I go on with the stories. Some interesting ones for me. They are. I mean, it's just this probably. I don't expect this to be viewed. This is not something I want to ever make money off of or anything like that. It's just basically a time capsule. to just share some stories that, as I get older, if, the good Lord willing, and I'm around for a few years and, I keep my mind that I don't, forget things. And it's kind of like that. I have a lot of time to reflect, and I just thought I would put this down for anybody that was interested in seeing it. It's not something I'm worried about getting views. Uh, and I'm sure there's thousands and thousands of others, boomers. I'm on the tail end of the boomers, and that have their stories, and I hope a lot of them are sharing their things and their wisdom and things they've learned. Life will give you a wisdom whether you want it or not. It'll give you things. Hard knocks will teach you. There is definitely a school of hard knocks that you can learn. So, like I said, they won't be very long videos. I'm just going to put little short ones up, and when the feeling hits me, and just try to share and tell my stories. So this is the first one. This is basically an introductory. My name's Eddie, of course, and my granddaughter knows me as Pawpaw. I had a Pawpaw too, so it's just a lot of stories I want to share. So this is kind of the introductory that I'm gonna, you know, say what I'm gonna say. I might go all over the place. I might ramble sometimes because this is not going to be edited. I'm not into all that editing stuff. Just on my phone. Just a simple little video. So, okay, I hope this is the beginning of many more. I hope I stick with this and share these just for the sake of, if they're interested in the future, to know what I sounded like, looked like, remember me. So, I normally wear glasses. I took them off because the reflection was really bugging me. So, I'm going to do it without my glasses. So, all right. Well, that's all I've got for today. I hope everybody's doing great. I'll talk to you another time.